The warning sirens screamed across Haven Station when the alien ships appeared. Ambassador Chen Weaver rushed to the command center, her heart pounding. Through the massive viewing window she saw them. 7 battered warships limped toward Earth's outer defenses, trailing atmosphere and debris. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," said the communications officer. "They're asking for help." Admiral Marcus Reeves stood with his arms crossed, his gray eyes cold. "Help? The same aliens who rejected us 5 years ago? Who called us too violent for their precious Galactic Accord?" Chen wanted to argue, but she remembered that day too. Earth had reached out with open hands. The galaxy had laughed and turned away. Now these same beings came crawling back. "Let them through," Chen ordered, "but keep weapons locked." The lead ship docked an hour later. When the airlock opened, Chen saw creatures she'd only glimpsed in old transmissions. High Coordinator Zephyx emerged first, his forearms hanging limp with exhaustion. His blue skin was pale, almost gray. Behind him came 6 others from different species, all looking defeated. "Ambassador Weaver," Zephyx said in perfect English, "thank you for seeing us." "You have 5 minutes," Reeves growled. "Explain why we shouldn't blow you back into space." Zephyx didn't flinch. "Because we're dying. And soon you will be too." They moved to a conference room. Zephyx activated a holographic display. Chen watched in horror as stars winked out one by one on the map. 14 systems gone. "The Kashari swarm," Zephyx explained. "They came from the galactic core 3 months ago. Nothing stops them. Our weapons don't work. Our shields fail. They adapt to everything we try." "How many ships?" Reeves asked. "Over 3,000 in their main fleet. They're not just destroying us. They're consuming everything. Planets, stations, entire civilizations." Dr. Sarah Okonkwo leaned forward. She'd been silent until now, studying the data with hungry eyes. "They're biological ships. Living things. That's why your energy weapons don't work properly." Zephyx nodded. "You understand quickly, Doctor." "Yes, they evolve faster than we can adapt. Every battle teaches them. Every weapon we use becomes useless within hours." Chen felt a chill. "And you want our help?" "We have 47 years of space technology. You've had thousands." "Exactly," Zephyx said quietly. "We've had thousands of years to become civilized, to develop rules of war, honor. The Kashari don't care about honor. They only understand survival." He looked at Reeves. "Just like you." Reeves smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "You think we're savages? I think you're survivors. There's a difference." Zephyx pulled up another image. A massive ring structure floating in space. "This is the Erebus Gate. It's a choke point between the outer territories and the core worlds. If the Kashari take it, they'll reach the populated sectors. Billions will die. So defend it," Chen said. "We tried. We lost 4 fleets. The Kashari vanguard is already heading there. 300 ships." Zephyx's forearms trembled. "We have refugee ships. Millions of civilians evacuating worlds in the Kashari's path. We need time. Just 72 hours. You want us to hold a gate against 300 warships for 3 days?" Reeves laughed. "With what?" "We have 47 destroyers and 12 carriers." "Yes," Zephyx said simply. "And if you succeed, the Galactic Accord will grant Earth full membership. Trade rights, technology exchange, everything you wanted 5 years ago." The room went silent. Chen's mind raced. This was the offer Earth had dreamed of. "But the price was blood, and if we refuse?" she asked. "Then Earth remains isolated. Forever. The Accord will ensure no species trades with you or shares technology. You'll be alone." Zephyx met her eyes. "But more than that, when the Kashari finish with us, they'll keep spreading. Eventually, they'll reach your world. And you'll face them alone anyway." Reeves stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth hung like a blue jewel in the darkness. "You're asking us to die for you. I'm asking you to fight for yourselves. We're just offering you a reason to start now instead of later." Dr. Okonkwo was studying the Kashari data. "These combat reports. Every species fought the same way. Formation tactics, energy weapons, ship-to-ship combat at range." She looked up. "Has anyone tried fighting dirty?" Zephyx looked confused. "Dirty?" "Chemical weapons. Biological agents, kinetic weapons, ramming, boarding actions," she smiled. "War crimes by your civilized standards. Those methods are forbidden by rules the Kashari don't follow," Reeves interrupted. He turned back to face them. "You want Earth's help? Fine, but we fight our way. No interference, no rules. We use whatever weapons we choose." Zephyx hesitated. Chen could see the struggle on his face. He was desperate but proud. Finally, he nodded. Agreed. Complete autonomy. And we want access to all your intelligence on the Kashari, Chen added. Everything. Done, Chen looked at Reeves. The Admiral's face was unreadable. Then he nodded once. We'll need to put this to Earth's governments, Chen said. But you'll have an answer in 6 hours. After the aliens left, Reeves turned to Chen. You know what this is, right? They're using us as cannon fodder, expendable primitives to buy them time. I know, Chen said quietly. But they're also giving us a chance to prove ourselves. Or die trying. Dr. Okonkwo looked up from her tablet. There's something else. These Kashari. They're too efficient. Too perfect. This isn't natural evolution. She pulled up genetic data. Someone engineered them. Or something did. What are you saying? Chen asked. I'm saying the Voreth aren't telling us everything, and we're walking into something bigger than a simple rescue mission. Reeves smiled his cold smile again. Good. I hate simple missions. 6 hours later, Earth's answer came through. Chen stood before the council chamber's main screen, watching the voting results appear. 54 nations voted yes. 12 voted no. Earth would fight. She sent the message to Zephyx. We accept. Prepare to move out in 12 hours. The response came quickly. Thank you, Ambassador. The galaxy is watching. Don't disappoint us, Chen deleted the message and pulled up Earth's military channels. Admiral, begin fleet mobilization. And Admiral? Don't hold back. Wasn't planning to, Reeves replied. Time to show these civilized species what war really looks like. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity had accepted the challenge. Within hours, every major species knew that Earth would defend the Erebus Gate. The reactions came swift and harsh. On the Voreth homeworld, the Council broadcast humanity's decision to all member species. High Coordinator Zephyx stood before the assembled representatives, his forearms spread wide. The humans have agreed to hold the line, he announced. They will buy us the time we need. Laughter echoed through the chamber. A tall insectoid representative from the Thrix Dominion clicked his mandibles in amusement. The Death Worlders? Those violent primitives? They'll last 4 hours if they're lucky. I give them 3, added a crystalline being from the Luxor Collective. The Kashari will tear through them like paper. On countless worlds, betting pools formed. The odds were not in humanity's favor. Most species gave Earth between 3 and 6 hours before complete collapse. A few generous souls predicted 8 hours. On Earth, the debate raged just as fierce. Politicians argued in assembly halls. Citizens protested in the streets. Some called for peace. Others demanded action. But the decision was made. Admiral Reeves stood in the command center of the ECS Valiant, humanity's flagship. Around him, tactical displays showed the home fleet assembling. 47 destroyers, 12 carriers, 218 fighter craft. It was everything humanity had built in 47 years of spacefaring. It's not enough, his second officer said quietly. It never is, Reeves replied. That's why we have to be smarter. He pulled up the Vorath combat data and studied it for the 100th time. Every species had fought the same way. Ships in formation, energy weapons at medium range, retreat when shields failed, honor combat, civilized warfare. They're idiots, Reeves muttered. Sir? All of them. They fight like they're in a tournament, rules, honor, fair play. He zoomed in on a battle report. The Kashari aren't playing fair. So why should we? Dr. Okonkwo arrived on the bridge carrying a datapad. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but excitement made them bright. I've been studying the Kashari biology, she said. They're incredible. Adaptive armor that hardens against energy weapons. Neural networks that share combat data instantly. Regenerative systems that repair damage in minutes. That's not making me feel better, Dr. Reeves said. But they're biological. That's their weakness. She pulled up a molecular diagram. They're alive. They breathe. They eat. They can get sick. Every biological system has vulnerabilities. Reeves smiled slowly. You're talking about biological weapons. The Voreth won't like it. It's banned under the Galactic Accord. Good thing we're not members yet. Reeves turned to his officers. Start loading everything we've got. Nuclear warheads, chemical agents, biological payloads, kinetic kill vehicles. If it can hurt something, I want it armed and ready. Ambassador Chen Weaver watched from Earth as the fleet prepared to depart. She'd spent the last 6 hours in intense negotiations with the Voreth. demanding intelligence sharing. They'd given her data, but she sensed they were holding back. Something's wrong, she told her staff. The Vorath are desperate, but they're also calculating. They're not telling us everything about the Kashari. Does it matter? Her aide asked. We're committed now. It always matters when someone lies to you. Chen pulled up the communication logs, and I intend to find out what they're hiding. Across the galaxy, species watched as the human fleet departed Earth. The images were broadcast on every major network. Many laughed at the primitive ships. Others felt a strange unease. A wise old being from the scholar caste watched the broadcasts in silence. After a long moment, she spoke to her students. Do you know what separates Deathworlders from the rest of us? She asked. The students shook their heads. We evolved on gentle worlds, stable climates, predictable seasons. We learned cooperation because survival was easy. She pointed at the screen. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. Predators, diseases, weather that could freeze or boil them. They learned something we never did. What? A student asked. They learned that survival isn't about honor or rules. It's about winning at any cost. And that makes them very, very dangerous. The human fleet reached the Erebus system 36 hours after leaving Earth. The gate itself was massive. A ring of metal and energy that created a stable passage through space. Around it floated a large station, battered from previous battles. This is where we make our stand, Reeves announced to the fleet. This is where we show the galaxy what humans can do. The Vorath had left a small observation team behind. They watched nervously as human ships began moving in strange patterns. Instead of setting up defensive formations around the gate, the humans were doing something else entirely. What are they doing? Zephyx asked from his command ship, now safely distant. His tactical officer studied the displays. They're modifying the station, and they're positioning mining charges throughout the gate structure itself. They're going to destroy it. Zephyx felt his blood run cold. That gate is priceless. It took 3 centuries to build. Request clarification from Admiral Reeves, he ordered. The response came back quickly. If we're going to hold this position, we need to make it hurt to take. Stand by and watch. Human Marines landed on the station and began their work. They welded armor plates taken from stripped mining equipment. They positioned nuclear warheads in strategic locations. They filled corridors with explosive traps and chemical dispersal systems. Dr. Okonkwo supervised the biological teams. They loaded specialized containers with engineered viruses, designed to attack the Kashari neural networks. It was illegal by every galactic standard. She didn't care. How long until the Kashari arrive? She asked. 18 hours, came the response. Then we have time to prepare a welcome party. Chen Weaver sat in her quarters aboard Haven Station, watching the preparations through remote feeds. Messages poured in from other species, most mocking humanity's chances. A few offered polite condolences in advance. One message stood out. It came from an unknown source, encrypted heavily. The Vorath are lying to you. The Kashari are not mindless. Ask them why no one has ever captured one alive. Ask them why the Kashari only attack certain targets. Ask them what they're really running from. Chen tried to trace the message but failed. Someone out there wanted her to know the truth. The question was why. She forwarded the message to Reeves with a simple note. Watch your back. In the Erebus system, Admiral Reeves gathered his command staff for final briefing. In 18 hours, 300 Kashari bioships will come through that gate. They'll be expecting standard resistance. Energy weapons. Shield warfare. Ship-to-ship combat at range. He smiled. They're going to be very disappointed. We have advantages they don't know about. We're crazy. We're desperate. And we have absolutely nothing to lose. He looked at each officer in turn. Use every weapon. Every trick. Every dirty tactic you can think of. There are no rules here. Only survival. What about the Vorath watching us? Someone asked. Let them watch. Let the whole galaxy watch. It's time they learned what humans really are. Across the fleet, crews made final preparations. Fighter pilots kissed photos of loved ones. Marines checked their weapons one more time. Engineers armed systems that had never been tested in real combat. And far away, the Kashari Vanguard detected the human presence and adjusted course. 300 massive bioships, each one a living weapon perfected over millions of years. They had destroyed every species they'd encountered. Humanity would be no different. The sensors picked them up 3 hours before arrival. 300 massive shapes moving through space like a dark tide. The Kashari vanguard had arrived. Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the Valiant watching the sensor displays. Each Kashari bioship was enormous, dwarfing even humanity's largest vessels. They moved with organic grace, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns along their hulls. "They're beautiful," Dr. Okonkwo whispered from her station. "They're death," Reeves corrected. "Remember that." Across the galaxy, billions watched the live feeds. The Vorath had broadcast everything, wanting witnesses to their evacuation operation. Now those witnesses would see if humanity could truly hold the line. The betting pools updated. Most species had lowered their estimates. 2 hours until human collapse, the experts predicted. "All ships, this is Valiant Actual." Reeves broadcast to the fleet. "Fall back behind the gate station. Let them come to us." The human ships retreated, disappearing behind the massive station structure. To the watching galaxy, it looked like cowardice. The Kashari vanguard accelerated, sensing easy prey. High Coordinator Zephix watched from his command ship, safely distant. "They're running already?" I knew this was a mistake. His tactical officer frowned. "Something's wrong. Look at their formation. They're not retreating. They're positioning." The Kashari ships reached the Erebus Gate and began flowing through, confident and unstoppable. They'd done this 100 times before. No species could stand against them. Then the universe caught fire. The gate station erupted with weapons fire. But these weren't the energy weapons the Kashari had adapted to. These were metal projectiles accelerated to insane speeds by magnetic rails, solid slugs of tungsten and depleted uranium, moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The Kashari bioships had armor that could harden against lasers and plasma, but kinetic energy didn't care about adaptation. The projectiles punched through hulls like they were paper. Bioships split open, spilling atmosphere and fluids into space. "What are those weapons?" Zephix demanded. "Primitive kinetic accelerators," his officer replied in disbelief. "Railguns. They're using metal bullets." Before the Kashari could react, the second wave hit. Nuclear warheads launched from concealed positions detonated in the middle of their formation. Not the clean fusion devices the galaxy used, but dirty fission bombs that scattered radiation in all directions. The Kashari ships recoiled, their biological systems struggling against the sudden radiation poisoning. They'd never encountered such crude, brutal weapons. Admiral Reeves smiled coldly. "Now the real fun begins. All fighters launch." 200 human fighters screamed out from behind the station, but they weren't engaging in elegant dogfights. They flew in tight, aggressive patterns, firing missiles loaded with chemical explosives and white phosphorus. A Kashari bioship tried to shoot down an incoming fighter. It succeeded, destroying the small craft. Then the fighter's debris kept moving, slamming into the bioship's hull at full velocity. The impact created a breach. The fighter's remaining fuel ignited, causing a secondary explosion. "Did that pilot just ram them?" Zephix couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Affirmative," his officer replied. "And others are doing the same." Deliberately. Across the galaxy, species watched in horror and fascination. The humans were fighting without any regard for honor or their own lives. They were fighting like cornered animals. 3 Kashari bioships broke formation and tried to flank the station. They encountered a minefield, but again, these weren't elegant energy mines. They were chunks of metal packed with explosives, simple and devastating. The bioships triggered them and were shredded by shrapnel. Dr. Okonkwo watched her monitors, tracking the biological readings from the Kashari ships. "Now," she said quietly. Throughout the battlefield, specialized missiles detonated. They didn't carry explosives. They carried clouds of engineered viruses, specifically designed to attack the Kashari neural networks. The effect was immediate. Kashari ships began to twitch and spasm, their coordinated movements becoming erratic. Some fired on each other. Others simply stopped moving. "We gave them the flu," Okonkwo explained to her horrified Vorath observers. "Well, more like weaponized Ebola mixed with a computer virus. It attacks their biological systems and their neural processors simultaneously. That's a war crime under 16 separate accords," the Vorath observer stammered. "Good thing we never signed those accords," she replied cheerfully. The Kashari vanguard tried to regroup. They'd lost 30 ships in the first 10 minutes. more than they'd lost in any single battle before. They began to adapt, hardening their hulls, filtering their biological systems. Admiral Reeves watched them adjust. They're learning. Good. Let's teach them more. He gave the order and the human ships emerged from behind the station. But instead of maintaining distance, they accelerated directly toward the Kashari formation. They're charging? Zephyx felt his heart's hammering. They're going to ram them? The destroyers opened fire at point-blank range with every weapon they had. Railguns, missiles, even old-fashioned autocannons that fired explosive shells. They flew through Kashari formations like sharks through a school of fish, taking damage but dealing more in return. 3 destroyers were torn apart by Kashari bioweapons. Their crews died in seconds, but before they died they armed their reactors for overload and steered directly into enemy ships. The resulting explosions took out 5 more bioships. They're insane, the Thrix representative whispered in the Galactic Council chambers. Absolutely insane. No, said the old scholar who had predicted this. They're survivors. There's a difference. 24 hours into the battle, the Kashari vanguard was down to 200 ships. They'd adapted to many human weapons, but new ones kept appearing. Chemical weapons gave way to biological ones. Kinetic weapons mixed with energy weapons. Every time they adapted to one threat, 3 more appeared. Marine boarding teams added to the chaos. They used explosive charges to breach Kashari hulls, then fought their way inside in zero gravity. The Kashari had never experienced boarding actions. Their internal defenses were minimal. Sergeant Maria Rodriguez led her team through the pulsing corridors of a Kashari bioship. The walls were organic, warm, and wet. It was like fighting inside a living creature. Contact, someone shouted. Kashari defenders appeared, biomechanical warriors that moved like liquid. Rodriguez's team opened fire with shotguns and flamethrowers, weapons that had been obsolete in ship combat for centuries. In these tight corridors, they were devastatingly effective. Plant the charges, Rodriguez ordered. We have 3 minutes. Her team worked quickly, attaching explosive charges to what looked like major organs. When they detonated, the entire bioship shuddered and went dark. Back on the Valiant, Admiral Reeves studied the tactical display. 48 hours had passed. The Kashari vanguard was down to 150 ships. The human fleet had lost 23 destroyers, 6 carriers, and 147 fighters. The cost was terrible. But they were winning. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Kashari, the communications officer reported, shock in her voice. They're trying to communicate. Reeves felt a chill. Put it through. The voice that came through was strange, layered as if dozens of beings spoke as one. You are not like others. You fight with chaos, pain, no rules. That's right, Reeves replied. We fight to win. Why? This is not your war. You came to our galaxy. That makes it our war. Silence for a moment. Then, you are worthy prey. When we finish the others, we will return for you. The transmission ended. Reeves smiled grimly. At least they're honest. Hour 71 arrived. The Kashari vanguard, reduced to 90 ships, began to retreat. They'd never retreated before. The watching galaxy fell silent in shock. The Vorath evacuation was complete. Millions of refugees were safe. Humanity had held the line. But instead of celebration, Admiral Reeves received a new transmission from High Coordinator Zephyx. The words made his blood run cold. Attention, human fleet. By order of the Galactic Council, you are hereby ordered to stand down and submit to quarantine. You have proven yourselves too dangerous for civilized society. Comply immediately or face consequences. Chen Weaver stood in her office reading the same message. Around Earth, similar transmissions arrived. 40 species had mobilized their fleets. They were heading toward human space. She opened a channel to Admiral Reeves. They're going to kill us, aren't they? We did what they asked, and now they're going to eliminate the threat. Reeves stared out at the battlefield, at the floating debris and the blood that stained the stars. His fleet was damaged, exhausted, running low on ammunition. Let them come, he said quietly. We held the line against the Kashari. What's 40 more species? Marcus, we can't fight the whole galaxy. Watch us. The quarantine order spread across human space like a plague. Earth's governments erupted into chaos. Some leaders called for peaceful negotiations. Others demanded immediate military action. The planet that had unified to face the Kashari now fractured under the weight of betrayal. Admiral Reeves refused to return to Earth. His damaged fleet remained at Erebus Gate, tending to wounded and repairing ships as best they could. But he knew repairs wouldn't matter. 40 species were coming. His fleet couldn't stand against those numbers. "Admiral, we're picking up new contacts," the sensor officer called out. "Multiple ships entering the system." Reeves felt his stomach tighten. The enemy fleet was early. Battle stations. All hands to— "Wait," the officer interrupted. "These aren't military vessels. They're civilian ships. From Earth." Through the viewport, Reeves saw them coming. Mining ships with industrial lasers hastily mounted as weapons. Cargo haulers converted into missile platforms. Even a luxury cruise liner, its elegant hull now bristling with improvised weapons. "This is the civilian transport horizon." A voice crackled over the radio. "We heard you might need some help, Admiral." "This is insane," Reeves whispered. "You're not soldiers. You're not even armed properly." "Neither were you when you started," the captain replied. "Besides, you think we're going to let the military have all the fun? We're humans too." More ships appeared. A mining consortium from the asteroid belt. A merchant fleet from Mars. Independently owned vessels from every corner of human space. They came with whatever weapons they could improvise and whatever courage they could muster. Chen Weaver watched the civilian mobilization from Haven Station. She'd tried to stop it, to reason with people. But humanity had made its choice. They would not surrender. They would not be quarantined. If the galaxy wanted to cage them, they would have to pay in blood. "Madam Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command," her aide said. The message was simple and direct. Earth's fragmented governments had reached a consensus. If the Galactic Council wanted war, they would get it. But humanity would not wait to be attacked. They would strike first. Chen felt something cold settle in her stomach. They're really going to do it. Fight the entire galaxy. "What choice do we have?" her aide asked. "We saved their refugees. We held the line. And they respond by threatening to destroy us?" "Because we scared them," Chen realized. "We showed them what Death Worlders can do when pushed. Now they want to eliminate the threat before we become unstoppable." At Erebus Gate, Dr. Okonkwo studied her instruments with growing alarm. The retreating Kashari fleet had stopped. They weren't leaving the system. They were waiting. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "Why would they stop?" "They're running from us." She pulled up every piece of data she'd collected on the Kashari. Their biology, their tactics, their behavior patterns. Something nagged at her mind, a pattern she'd been too busy to see before. Then it hit her. "Admiral," she shouted, running onto the bridge. "The Kashari aren't conquerors. They're refugees." Reeves looked at her like she'd gone mad. "What? Look at their pattern of attack. They only hit resource-rich systems. They strip them and move on. They're not building an empire. They're running from something and gathering supplies as they go." She pulled up star charts. "And look where they're heading. Away from the galactic core. Away from something. Away from what? I don't know. But the Vorath do. They've known all along." Chen Weaver had reached the same conclusion independently. She'd been digging through the encrypted message she'd received, following its clues. Finally, she'd hacked into a Vorath database and found the truth. The silence. It was an event that occurred every 50 million years. A wave of extinction that swept through the galaxy, wiping clean entire civilizations. The Kashari were survivors of the last cycle, ancient beings desperately trying to outlive another apocalypse. And the Vorath had known. They'd manipulated humanity into fighting their war, using Earth as expendable soldiers against an enemy they didn't understand. Chen opened a secure channel to Admiral Reeves. "Marcus, I'm sending you classified data. The Vorath used us. The Kashari aren't mindless monsters. They're victims too." Reeves reviewed the data in silence. When he finished, his face was carved from stone. "How long do we have?" "Until the silence arrives. The data is unclear. Could be a year. Could be 10. But it's coming. And the Vorath knew. They let us fight and die knowing the truth." "Yes." Reeves made a decision. "Open a channel. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." When the channel opened, Reeves broadcast to the entire galaxy. Every species, every ship, every station received his message. "This is Admiral Marcus Reeves of Earth. I'm going to tell you a story about betrayal, about how the Vorath Collective manipulated humanity into fighting a war they didn't understand. about how they've done this before to 3 other species, leaving them to die after using them as weapons. He transmitted the data Chen had found, proof of the Vorath's manipulations, evidence of the silence, records of previous species used and discarded. The Kashari aren't your enemy, Reeves continued. They're survivors just like us. The Vorath lied to everyone. And now they want to quarantine us because we're too dangerous? Because we survived their trap? Across the galaxy, species began to question. The Vorath's authority crumbled as the truth spread. Council members demanded answers. The Vorath High Coordinator tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. 3 hours after Reeves's broadcast, something remarkable happened. 12 species withdrew their support for the quarantine. They declared that humanity had been wronged and deserved answers, not threats. But 28 species remained committed. They feared humanity too much to back down. Their fleets continued toward human space. Dr. Okonkwo opened a channel to the Kashari fleet. She didn't know if they would answer, but she had to try. This is Dr. Sarah Okonkwo of Earth. I know you can understand me. I know you're not mindless. I know about the silence. Silence stretched for long minutes. Then the layered voice returned. You know the truth. Yet you fought us. We didn't know then. We were lied to, just like you've been hunted. She took a breath. The silence is coming. Neither of us can survive it alone. But together, maybe we have a chance. More silence. Then you are Death Worlders. Your kind thrives on adversity. We have seen this. You do not surrender. No, Okonkwo agreed. We don't, will you? The response came after a long pause. We will consider alliance. But first you must face those who come for you. Prove you are worthy of survival. The Kashari fleet moved away, but they didn't leave the system. They were watching, waiting. Admiral Reeves gathered his ragtag fleet. The military vessels battered but unbroken. The civilian ships armed with improvised weapons and desperate courage. It wasn't enough to face 28 species, but humanity had one more trick. Fire the packages, Reeves ordered. 3 weeks ago, when Earth had agreed to defend Erebus Gate, they'd also launched a secret operation. Relativistic missiles accelerated to near light speed, aimed at strategic targets across the galaxy. Not weapons of mass destruction, but precision strikes. The missiles had been traveling for weeks, invisible and unstoppable. Now they reached their targets. Vorath communication hubs went dark. Major trade routes were suddenly blocked by debris fields. Key political centers lost power as satellites were destroyed. No one died. But the message was clear and terrifying. Earth could strike anywhere, anytime, with weapons that couldn't be stopped or even detected until impact. This is Earth's final warning. Chen Weaver broadcast to the Galactic Council. We held the line you couldn't. We saved your refugees. We exposed your lies. And you dare threaten us with quarantine? She let that sink in before continuing. We don't want war. We never did. But if you force this, understand what you're facing. We're Death Worlders. We survived our own planet trying to kill us. We survived each other. We survived the Kashari. Her voice became cold as ice. Do you really think your civilized fleets can stop us? We've just shown you we can strike your homeworlds whenever we choose. We can fight dirty in ways you can't imagine. We will not go quietly into extinction. She paused. Or we can talk. We can face the silence together. The choice is yours. But choose quickly. Our patience is running out. The Galactic Council dissolved into chaos. Species argued. Fleets hesitated. Some called for immediate attack. Others demanded negotiation. The Vorath High Coordinator, seeing his authority collapsing, made a desperate decision. He ordered his personal fleet to attack humanity immediately, before the galaxy could unite behind Earth. All Vorath vessels converge on human space. Eliminate the threat before it spreads. The Vorath had the second largest fleet in the galaxy. 3,000 warships began moving toward Earth. The Vorath fleet moved like a tide of destruction toward human space. 3,000 warships representing centuries of military tradition and technological superiority. High Coordinator Zephix commanded from his flagship, confident that overwhelming force would crush humanity's defiance. They have maybe 200 ships remaining, he told his officers. This will be over in hours. He was wrong. Earth didn't wait for the Vorath to arrive. Admiral Reeves split his forces. The military fleet, damaged but determined, positioned itself for a defensive stand. The civilian vessels scattered using hit-and-run tactics that no civilized fleet would expect. But the real surprise came from Earth itself. Every ship that could fly launched. Not just military vessels, but everything. Space tugs, scientific research vessels, even atmospheric shuttles hastily modified for space combat. If it had an engine and could mount a weapon, it joined the fight. The Vorath fleet entered human space expecting easy victory. Instead, they entered a nightmare. Mining ships designed to break apart asteroids used their industrial equipment to tear Vorath vessels apart. Cargo haulers rammed enemy ships at full acceleration, trading their lives to take down larger targets. Scientific vessels released clouds of experimental materials that jammed sensors and corroded hulls. "This is madness," Zephyx shouted as his tactical display filled with contacts. "Where are all these ships coming from?" "Earth, sir. It appears every civilian vessel has been armed." Zephyx watched in horror as a luxury liner, its passenger decks converted to weapons bays, destroyed 2 of his destroyers before finally being brought down. The humans weren't fighting like soldiers. They were fighting like every single person was willing to die to protect their world. Admiral Reeves directed the chaos from the Valiant. His strategy was simple and brutal. No formations, no honor, just pure desperate violence from every angle. All ships, free attack pattern, hit them with everything, make them bleed for every meter they advance. The Kashari fleet, still watching from a distance, observed the battle with fascination. The layered voice spoke to Dr. Okonkwo. "Your kind. Fights like us, survival, at any cost. Will you help us?" Okonkwo asked desperately. "We will watch. If you survive, we will know you are worthy." The battle raged for 6 hours. The Vorath fleet, despite its superior numbers and technology, was being ground down by sheer human determination. But humanity was bleeding too. Ships died by the dozens. Thousands of people gave their lives. Then something unexpected happened. 12 species that had withdrawn from the quarantine sent their fleets to human space. But they didn't attack. They positioned themselves between Earth and the Vorath, broadcasting a simple message. "The Vorath have lied to us all. Humanity deserves justice, not destruction. If you want Earth, you'll have to go through us first." Zephyx felt his world crumbling. He'd been so certain of victory. Now he faced not just humans, but a coalition of species inspired by their defiance. "All ships target the..." His order was cut off as the Valiant materialized directly in front of his flagship. Admiral Reeves had taken a crazy risk, using a short-range jump to get point-blank with the enemy command ship. "This is Admiral Reeves. I'm right outside your door, Zephyx. Want to talk now?" The Vorath flagship tried to maneuver away, but human boarding pods were already attaching to its hull. Marines, veterans of the Erebus Gate battle, began cutting their way inside. Zephyx realized he had seconds to act. "All ships, cease fire. I surrender." The battlefield fell silent. 3,000 Vorath ships stopped moving. Across human space, the fighting ended as suddenly as it had begun. 12 hours later, Ambassador Chen Weaver stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. The mood was tense, uncertain. "You asked humanity to prove ourselves worthy," Chen began. "We held the line at Erebus Gate. We exposed the lies of those who claimed to lead you. And when threatened with extinction, we showed you what Deathworlders truly are." She pulled up holographic displays showing the battle footage. "We don't fight like you. We don't follow your rules. We can't afford to. Our world taught us that survival requires adaptability, courage, and the willingness to do whatever it takes." A representative from the Thrix Dominion spoke up. "You used forbidden weapons. You fought without honor. You terrified the entire galaxy." "Yes," Chen agreed simply, "because the alternative was extinction. You can judge us for our methods. But we're still here. That's what matters." The old scholar who had predicted humanity's danger rose to speak. "The question before this council is simple. Do we destroy humanity because they scare us? Or do we embrace them because we need them?" She gestured to the displays. "The silence is coming. It's no longer a question of if, but when. When it arrives, do you want humanity fighting against you or beside you?" High Coordinator Zephyx, now a prisoner aboard Haven Station, was allowed to speak. "I made a mistake," he admitted, his forearms hanging limply. "I thought humans were tools to be used and discarded. I was wrong. They're survivors. And perhaps we need survivors now more than ever." The vote took 3 hours. When it finished, the results were clear. Humanity would not be quarantined. Instead, Earth was granted full membership in a reformed galactic accord. The Vorath would face justice for their manipulations, and a new coalition would form to prepare for the silence. Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the Valiant, looking out at Earth. His fleet had lost half its ships and thousands of crew. But they'd won. Dr. Okonkwo joined him. The Kashari want to meet officially. They're offering to share their knowledge about the silence. Are they joining us? Not yet. But they're watching. They said if humans can lead the fight against the silence, they'll follow. Reeves smiled tiredly. No pressure then. Chen Weaver arrived on the bridge carrying a data pad. I've been reviewing the casualty lists. 14,000 dead, another 30,000 wounded. Too many, Reeves said quietly. Yes, but the galaxy is alive because of them. She handed him the pad. The Council wants you to lead the defense preparations. They're calling you the first Galactic Marshal. Reeves looked at the title and laughed bitterly. 6 months ago, they wouldn't let us join their club. Now they want me to lead their military? You proved you could win against impossible odds. That's what they need now. He thought about the Kashari fleet still waiting in the Erebus system, about the silence coming inevitably toward them all, about the price humanity had paid to earn respect. Fine, he said, but we do this my way. No rules, no honor. Just survival. I wouldn't expect anything else, Chen replied. Across the galaxy, species began preparing for the coming storm. Ancient weapons were unearthed. Defenses were built. Alliances were forged. And at the center of it all stood humanity, the Death Worlders who had proven themselves in fire. The Kashari watched from a distance and for the first time in millions of years felt something like hope. These humans were chaos personified. They were violent, unpredictable, and terrifying. They were also survivors. And survival was all that mattered when facing extinction. On Earth, people mourned their dead and celebrated their victory. Children played in streets while adults rebuilt. Life continued as it always had because humans never stopped living even in the face of death. In the depths of space, something stirred. The silence had been delayed but not stopped. It was coming, an extinction event that had wiped the galaxy clean before and would try again. But this time was different. This time the galaxy had humans, Deathworlders who had evolved on a planet that tried to kill them daily. Survivors who refused to surrender. Warriors who fought dirty and won. Admiral Reeves looked out at the stars and smiled grimly. Let it come. We've survived worse, he was right. They had survived their own planet. They'd survived each other. They'd survived rejection and betrayal. They'd survived the Kashari and the Vorath. The silence didn't know what it was facing. It didn't know that Earth had spent 4 billion years creating the perfect survivors. It didn't know that humans were the galaxy's greatest weapon, forged in fire and tempered by adversity. When the silence came, it would learn, and the galaxy would watch as Deathworlders did what they did best: survive, adapt, win, because that's what humans were. That's what they'd always been. Not the strongest, not the smartest, not the most advanced, just the most stubborn survivors in a universe that had repeatedly tried and failed to kill them. The aliens had asked for help. The galaxy had challenged Earth, and both had burned for their mistakes. But from those ashes, something new had emerged. A coalition of species united not by fear but by hope. Hope that together, they could face the impossible and survive. And leading them were the humans, the Deathworlders who smiled at danger and whispered their defiant motto to the uncaring stars: "We're just getting started."